How are you? It's Nancy Fox, the Business Fox, and we're going to be doing a Fired Up Friday session today on a topic that you guys write to me about all the time, and it's all about how to prevent fear from stopping you from starting and growing a successful business, because that's a huge obstacle for so many. Well, I can't wait to dive into this really important topic because it's really going to be eye-opening for you. The real culprit is not the fear, and I'm going to give you the real secret solution. So make sure that you watch to the very end of this video, okay? All right, so first of all, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've been coaching entrepreneurs and professionals for 20 years, and before that, I was a corporate executive and I was in marketing and in product development, and for some pretty big companies and for some smaller ones. And I traveled all over the world, and I did a lot of product development. And then after a long career, I realized that I was ready for a brand new challenge, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I was sort of stuck for quite a while. And then very fortunately, the right opportunities and the right people came into my vision, and I took a leap of faith. I took a course, and it changed my life completely. And that brought me to making a really powerful difference with many, many hundreds of successful entrepreneurs and professionals all over the country and even all over the world. And it's been just an amazing journey. And it continues to be that, especially in today's marketplace where there are so many people over the age of 50 who are going through huge life changes and career obstacles and roadblocks, where they're losing their jobs, they're being downsized, they're being laid off at the prime of their careers and not really knowing exactly what they really want to do. And so I love supporting people in finding their it and starting amazing businesses, especially in the online world. And there are many, many different models, but there are some that I think are really well suited for those over the age of 50, and some that I think are a little bit more challenging and a little bit less, they're more sort of tactical and more transactional, as opposed to more from the heart and soul. And at this time of life, so many of us we want purpose and passion, not just prosperity and profit. We want it all, and we should be able to have it, and there are ways of getting it. But here's the thing. What happens is, as people are making these transitions from a very long history and career, it's really a big challenge to get beyond what you're used to and take on a completely new challenge, right? So what comes up for so many of you as you write to me and tell me that you would love to be autonomous, you would love to be free, you would love to have the flexibility to do what you love and to do what you're really meant to be doing, and do it from anywhere in the world, and have that kind of autonomy and freedom and the ability to have unlimited earning potential. But what comes up for you is this gigantic fears that sound like, what if it doesn't work? What if I take the time and I make the leap and it fails? What if? And rarely do you say to yourself, what if it's successful? What if I thrive? What if I become really wealthy? And very rarely are those the thoughts that go through your head. What comes up for most people are lots and lots of fears. Even, by the way, for some of you, you've actually started a business once before in your life, and still the fear comes up, because at this time of your life, there are some perspectives that you have around time and age that are different for you today than they were when you were in your 20s or 30s. And I'm here to tell you that there are some great solutions for you, but they can't be accessed from where you start. You can't access them from where you're attempting to access them. And that's why I'm going to dive into the real source of this situation for you today. I'm going to reveal the secret. I'm going to pull the curtain back for you, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by this. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about fear and what it is and what it is not. So all of us we've all been fearful at one time or another. And in our society, when you're experiencing fear, we believe that something is wrong, right? As soon as you're feeling fear, there's always an uh-oh, and that's what we sort of all buy into that fear means something's wrong. That's the first error. The first error is that fear was designed as an emotion from the internal dialogue place, and from a brain science place. Fear was designed to allow you to have awareness that there might be a danger somewhere in the vicinity. But there are two different kinds of fear. There is a real threat, physical threat kind of fear, and then there is the perceived fear, which is about what would happen, what could happen, what if. Those are two different kinds of fear. One is an instinctual emotion, and the other is an intuitive emotion, and they're very different. So we really have to separate them out, but we tend to collapse them, that all fear is bad, and it's not the truth at all. So let me say a little bit about this. Here's what happens from a brain science viewpoint. When you have a thought, or you're having an experience, and an experience turns into a thought, and a thought is a thing. A thought is actually your neurological fibers connecting and creating this connection, and then there's an energetic connection, it's electrically charged actually, it's positive and negative, and they connect, and then as soon as this connection is made, there is a chemical that's released, or chemicals that are released. And we begin to interpret those chemicals as an emotion that we know as fear. Adrenaline, cortisol, all of these, there are different chemicals that get released when something seems to be a threat. But the key word here is seems to be. Your subconscious mind cannot distinguish between a perceived threat and a real threat. It only knows that it's sensing a threat around you. And it is always on, it's like hypervigilant, looking for any potential threat. So even when something is not actual, but it's a possibility, your subconscious is working overtime to keep you safe, and it wants to keep you in the same place as it knows your life to have been. So it's designed to keep you in the same place, in a familiar situation or experience, or sometimes we know that feeling as being stuck. And that's why we would actually rather be stuck, even if it's uncomfortable, rather than move beyond stuck into a new experience, because we're going to feel the fear, and fear automatically makes us uncomfortable, and when we're uncomfortable, we interpret that as wrong. So we're in a catch-22. We want to move forward in our lives, but we can't because we're afraid. And we use fear as a real, true reason to not move forward. We convince ourselves that fear is a good indication of something to not move forward with, when in fact it's not the truth at all. Not if you really want to have something new and better and improved in your life, because you cannot have anything new or better in your life from the old situation unless you like the situation that you're in. If you're not happy with your current situation, there's only one way around it, and that's to move beyond it. But fear keeps us stuck, and we're familiar with it, and we all sort of buy into this. Now, let's also say, we also have to sort of take a look back, like how this fear got started in the first place, where the source of it is, because it did not take place, it did not get formed in your adult experience. It got formed, your experiences are filtered, they are filed by your subconscious between the ages of 1 and 7. And after that, the filter is solid. It's in place. So if you have an experience of fear around, I'm going to give you a bunch of different examples of how fear can be manifested. Once you have these fears, your subconscious mind is always looking for, where does this fit into the filtering system? What does it, where can I sort of, when that subconscious mechanism is in a look back mode, it's trying to find where it had a similar experience, and then it puts you back in the filter of back then. So here's what happened. Between the ages of 1 and 7, you had an experience. That experience created a thought, which is a thing. The chemicals got released. You had an emotion that you interpret those chemicals as the emotion, right? And then forevermore, you're in a loop. You're in a repetitive loop because your subconscious is always going to be in look back mode. Where did this fit into my filtering system? So let's say that you had the experience of let's say between the ages of 1 and 7, you stepped off the curb before looking both ways, and your mother or your father yelled at you, and your subconscious mind, was jolted, and now the immediate reaction is fear and upset that you did something wrong. So doing something wrong gets sort of familiarized in your mind, and you're not willing to take any steps that where you could be seen as doing something wrong, because there's going to be a negative reaction, a parental reaction. And so your filter is starting to be put in place, and it starts to be concretized and hardwired. And these fears start to get solidified, and you're in a continual loop for the rest of your adult life. But you don't remember that it got started when you were 4 years old, when you first stepped off the curb and got yelled at, or when you got punished for not eating your vegetables, like all this weird stuff that happens when you're very, very young. Or think back to the first experience you ever had about money and what happened for you. If you think back to the very first memory you had about money and what emotion comes up for you, it's usually something that you carry through for the rest of your life. And this is what we call the core filter. Now what happens is, as over time, as your subconscious keeps layering in experience after experience, and in this look back loop mode, it's starting to clog up your filter, where you've got a pretty dirty filter by the time you're in your 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, and now you can't fight your way out of the paper bag no matter what you do. And what most people try to do is they deal with fear from the conscious mind, right? Like if you have a fear of public speaking, you just try to work on, being better prepared. And that does not cure the fear, because underneath you still have the core filter that says speaking in public is you're going to get laughed at, or you're going to be ridiculed, or you're going to make a mistake, or you're going to, whatever it is going to be a negative result out of it. So you're working on trying to solve the fear from your conscious mind, but it's your subconscious core filter which is on this continuous loop, which is driving the car, and you can't get out of it. What do you do about this? So let me give you some examples that why fear is really not the problem, that it's really just the symptom. So fear is a symptom of this core filter which has been hardwired into your system. That's one symptom. Other symptoms, these are not the real obstacles, these are just the surface conscious obstacles, are imposter syndrome, performance anxiety, chronic comparing yourself to other people, right? And coming up short, or having a chronic procrastination, if you're chronically late, or time management problems. These are symptoms of the real problem, but we don't know what there's a core filter that got put in place way, way back. And here's another one. If you are noticing that you're having bizarre physical ailments that nobody can explain, and they're coming usually right after a very stressful kind of situation for you, or you're faced with a big decision, or you're faced with a big life change, and you're starting to experience very unusual and challenging physical ailments, or colds that won't go away, or infections that happen to you right after you make a big leap forward in your life. These are all examples of how your subconscious core filter is trying to keep you stuck in the old mode. And yet, what we try to do is, we want to read the next book, we want to get the next self-help solution, and we're trying to deal with all of these core filter issues from the conscious mind, and it's the subconscious that's really running the show, right? So the issue is that you're trying to work on solving your fear from a conscious place. It's not going to work because you might, for example, you might make a decision to, let's say that you're in a chronic pattern of excessively exercising, right? And you're trying to, like, you're really worried about your weight. You're worried, and so you're chronically exercising. And the truth is, you're trying to fix yourself on a conscious plane, but underneath, what's really going on is you're coming from a place, as from your core filter is, you're not good looking enough, you're not thin enough. Some message got put in place early on, and you're trying to fix it by going to the gym chronically, and you're worried about it all the time. Or you're overeating all the time, and it's always a fix on the conscious level, but it's not really ever getting. It's like jelly on top of peanut butter. You try to take the jelly off, but underneath there's still the peanut butter. You can't do it. You got to figure out what the core filter theme is that's been running your show, when it began, and recognize. You got to bring it up into the, you got to reveal it. The spotlight has got to be put on it. It's almost like, that's why, do you remember the movie The Wizard of Oz? It was one of the most amazing movies, because really the truth is that it had so many great themes in there, but one that really relates to this topic is, when you pull the curtain back, it was never about the wizard and what the wizard wanted. It was always that the wizard was really terrified behind that curtain. A little old, shriveled up man, scared of his own shadow, hiding behind the curtain, big booming voice, big smoke, just booming and scaring people away. And the truth was, he was really terrified. It's the same thing. Your little 3 to 7 year old person is really just trying to survive, when in fact you can teach you can actually create a new filter for yourself. But first you got to clean it out. You got to clean out the old filter, and you don't even know what it is, because you've been trying to access it from the surface. So you get to that core message and that core filter, and how it started to get clogged up. It's on a continual loop that's driving everything for you. Now, that's why when you are faced with starting a business and growing a business, every decision that you make about that career change, about your business, about even what you choose to make your business about, if you can't figure out what your business should be about, if you make a decision about what direction to go in, so everything is being colored by that filter, and you don't even realize that every decision you're making is being influenced by that core filter that's been created with the mind of a 3 to 7 year old. I mean, it's just sort of crazy, right? So what do you really do about this? The truth is, you really got to get to the core filter, clean it out, and create a new perspective and a new filter from which to assess everything and create yourself as an adult, and not allow that. Now the challenge is that we think that we're really getting to the core filter, right? We really think that we're dealing with the core, but there are more layers below, and we will know, if we've gotten to the core, when the patterns stop repeating themselves. You will know, because you will get a sort of a click when you've gotten to the core, and you'll be able to stop the old loop and the old tape, and you'll be able to create a completely new mind movie. Basically, you're going to create from scratch, but you got to get to the core. If you're finding yourself in a chronic pattern of explaining, or the same fears are coming up, or if you're in a yo-yo pattern, or if you find yourself saying things in conversations with potential clients or customers, and you can feel your fear coming up, and you are saying things trying to convince them, or you're retreating, you know that this is a core filter that is driving you, and unless you lance it and dismantle it, and then recreate, really rewire your entire thinking pattern, you're going to be continuing to experience it. In the movie, The Legend of Bagger Vance, it was a wonderful movie, and it was an amazing book. And really, the story was about a man who was an incredible golfer. He had an incredible talent for golf, but he had some traumatic experiences, and he lost his swing. So he was trying to find his swing by practicing and using his old methodology for recreating the old swing, but he really couldn't, because what was underneath was really deep-seated lack of belief and lack of belief in himself, and he had to get really deep inside and find his authentic swing. They call it the authentic swing because at the core of you, before that old tape got formed by your subconscious trying to protect you, your authentic self, your authentic swing, the true you, without any negativity, without any damage, all of that was really present, and you've got to really start to tap into that all over again, as if you were really recreating your true self, right? That's the whole idea of this. So, unfortunately, what most people try to do is they want to read the next book, take the next course, get the next, I call it the flawed fix. It's like you try to sort of compensate for the core filter that's been clogged up all your whole life, and people will overcompensate. So for people, very often they'll overcompensate by when they have a lack of confidence, they'll overcompensate by being they'll find flaws with everybody around them. Toxic bosses are famous for this. When they're blaming everybody around them, they have a flawed fix. They're really coming from a place of lack of self-confidence in themselves. But it looks like they're bullying, and basically they're just coming from their own flawed, the filter is their subconscious mind is really running the show. But you have the opportunity to get to the core of you and really clear out this entire filter that's been running everything for you and create anew. And I really believe in this because I realized it, when I first began my business, I had no idea that what was running my show was a very deep-seated, long history of lack of confidence that started when I can remember the first incidents of it when I was 3 and been dragging it around, and there were clearly money issues and money belief systems that got put in place when I was 4, and they were on a loop, constantly driving everything. But once they came to light and once I went to work on them, now everything could open up and I could create from an adult place, and you can too. How do you do that? Well, it's simple but not easy, and it isn't one little thing that you can do. It's not one book, it isn't one magic pill or a silver bullet or anything like that. It's a process, and you have to learn how to access the subconscious mind and do it on a regular basis. And you need to learn how to distinguish, is it your conscious mind that is actually giving you the input, or is it your subconscious mind? And it's really important that you learn the distinction and how to tap into that really core filter. Then and only then can you recreate you can create a completely new filter from which you can perceive everything in your life and make really solid, profound, positive, confident decisions, and amazingly creative decisions and intuitive decisions that come from a place of power and authenticity and prosperity, which you cannot do on top of a subconscious filter that is damaged and clogged up and negative. Would you like to know more about that? I would love to share about that. I'd love to actually talk to you about what your core filter is. I'd love to dig in there with you. And that's why I created the complimentary webinar that I did about reinventing yourself, because it's really there for you to start to get the clues about these, understanding the distinctions between what you perceive as the actual problem versus the fact that they're really just the symptoms of the underlying problem. So check out my complimentary webinar, which I will post at www.thebusinessfox.com/reinvention. And then if you really want to get to learning more about how your fear is not really the problem about starting and growing a successful business, way other core filter issues under there that you've really got to access and learn about before you can ever have the right foundation to build a successful business upon, I invite you to book a discovery call with me. It's complimentary, and I promise it's going to be so eye-opening for you that you'll finally realize why these patterns have been in place your whole adult life, and you'll finally get to see that you can be free of them and what's necessary for you to be free of this fear, which very often for people, this fear it's paralyzing. It's just gripping you, and you have no freedom around it, and you will not be able to build a successful business around it either, and you'll be dragging it around for the rest of your adult life when it's unnecessary for you to do that. So I want to say to you that fear is an illusion. It is there for very good reason when there's a real physical threat, but you don't know how to distinguish your fear from the symptom of your subconscious mind, which just wants to hold you back from growing and expanding and having a bigger and better life and playing on a much more successful playing field. The freedom from fear is available. So for those of you who have questions for me, I would love to have you ask them. You can put them in the chat box, or you can write to me. You can DM me. You can, and I'm going to put the links to my complimentary webinar and to booking a discovery call with me, where you get to really learn more about how your core filters have been holding you back. All right, you guys, that's it from me today. I hope this has been valuable for you. And I really want to tell you how amazing it feels to be free of that filter that's been driving everything into a lower vibration for you for your whole adult life. Time for you to be free of fear. All right, you guys, have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.